Hello and welcome back to yet another tutorial video. In today's video I'm going to be covering a topic I feel that is quite brushed over, and that is going to be storage systems and mainly item filters. I feel as if the subject of item filters is something that is talked about but isn't actually explained. I feel as if people can build them but they don't know how they work. Or you have, like, for example, like newer players who hear the word item filter or storage room and they think you're talking about building a spaceship and firing it at Mars. So I think it would probably be a good idea if I actually covered the basics of item filtering and storage system. Now, in order to do this, I am going to give you a breakdown of Impulse's storage system. In case you don't know who Impulse is, he is a Java YouTuber, but he designed a item filter a number of years ago that became the blueprint of a lot of Bedrock item filters. The reason why I'm going to use this is it is probably one of the easiest to explain, but every item filter is pretty much the same from this point. They all do the same thing, they're just built differently, but they do the exact same job. So I'm just wanting to quickly say that the item filter that I'm going to be showing and building is designed by a guy called Impulse. So if you want a decently good in-depth video, please go check out his video. It is pretty decent at explaining it. It's probably the only other video that I've seen that actually explains them quite good. Other than that, I haven't really seen too many. So yeah, I'm going to explain what the actual filters do. Then I will explain item transport. Then I will do a block by block tutorial on how to build a basic filter with an item transport. But I'm going to jump right into it as we have quite a bit of stuff to cover in terms of explaining, because it is a little bit of a broad subject, but I'm going to try and narrow it down as much as I possibly can. So let's get right into it. First things first, you're going to notice I have these here two different but the same builds in front of me. Now these here are the same system, but they, for the sake of the tutorial, are demonstrating two different things. The one on my right, with the one with the ice, is demonstrating item transport and item realignment. The one to my left is demonstrating what is known as a slice. I will explain what that is in a minute, but this is demonstrating what's known as a slice and a filter. This is going to be where we're going to start. Then I will cover this one. Once I've covered this one, we will get into the block by block tutorial. Now, let's get right into this. As you just heard, you heard me use the word slice. Now, if you watch a lot of storage room videos, you will hear that word used quite a lot. And all what a slice means is it is a designated area for a selected item to get stored. So the easiest way for me to demonstrate that is, let's say I had another section of this right here, but this one sorts redstone lamps. This is now two slices that sorts two different items. If I have another one that, let's say, sorts item frames, this is now three different slices that sorts three different items. Pretty self-explanatory. So whenever you hear the term slice, this is what they're referring to. Now, let's actually get into the nitty-gritty of it. So to make this here really simple, what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this part up into two bits. I'm going to explain what the redstone part of it does first. Then I'm going to explain what the filter part does, which is this here hopper with these here items. Just to divide it up and make it a little bit easier so we're not mix and matching, because there's a few things going on. Now, first things first, what the redstone does is it starts with this comparator. This comparator is what I'm going to refer to is downloading data, I guess you could put it that way. This comparator is pretty much detecting what items are in this here hopper, and it is paying attention to the stack that is gunpowder. So you'll notice it has 41 items. Once that stack hits 42, what a comparator does is it extends signal strength depending on the item input that it is detecting. So for example, let's say a comparator is detecting 2 items and then you put in 4, it will give off a completely separate signal strength to 4 items than it did to 2. It will give off a stronger one. That's kind of self-explanatory, but that is how this works. This is all this comparator is doing, is extending a signal. So what happens is this comparator has now just detected that the number of items in here has gotten bigger, Ka to 42. So therefore it extends the signal, which powers this piece of redstone here. These here 2 are already powered. But once it hits 42, which is the exact number that it requires, it will extend the signal, powering this piece of redstone, powering this block, which powers this repeater, which powers this block, which depowers this torch, which depowers this block, which unpowers this hopper. Now why that's important is if you pay attention, you'll notice no items filter down because this torch is on. If this torch was off, the items would filter down. This is pretty much the lock and key of how this system works. While this torch is on, it is locked. Whenever this torch is off, it is open. So pretty much whenever this torch is off, it is active. Whenever this torch is on, it is locked. This prevents unwanted items from filtering through. It also only allows the designated item that you want to filter down into the designated place. So it basically just makes your life a lot easier. That is what this here does. Now, that is how this redstone functions. Now this is going to be the actual kind of complicated part. This is where most people get a bit confused, so bear with me and I will explain this in the best way I can. Now, I will divide this up into a couple sections. In a filter, you have the item you're wanting to sort, in this case gunpowder. Then you have what is referred to as your filter item. Now, the filter item is a completely different job compared to the gunpowder, and each one of these here have their own job. Now, to make this easier, I'm going to explain what the gunpowder does, ka the item you're wanting to sort, and then I will explain what the filter item does. Now, the gunpowder, what it does is the gunpowder is the item that this comparator is mainly focusing on. This is the bit that you just sort of need to know. Now, this comparator is comparing how many items is in this stack. So for example, if I chuck one item in, you'll notice it goes from 42 to 41. That is because 42 is the exact number that this system needs to activate, which means it will allow this item to filter down into the chest because this hopper now became unpowered. So for example, if I chuck, let's say 32 into there, well, it'll be a bit less than 32, but as you can see, it's filtering down. This torch is unpowered, which is allowing items to filter down through this hopper chain down into this here chest. Now, once it is re-hit what is called neutral, that is where it resets to 41. That's because it is now, the signal strength has dropped back to being weaker than what it was before. Now it is back to neutral state, where it doesn't have enough signal strength to activate because the items have just been filtered. That is what the gunpowder does. Gunpowder in this system just gives off the signal strength that causes this system to activate, while also it takes up a slot that allows you to configure what item you're wanting. So if I wanted to sort chests, they would go there. If I wanted to sort item frames, they would go there. If I wanted to sort lamps, as you will see, they will start filtering, but you'll notice that they did not stack. I will touch on that in a minute. But you'll notice if I wanted to store lamps there, they will start filtering and they will stop at 41. That slot sorts the one item that I am wanting to sort in this whole section of chests. That's what that first section does. Right. Now time for what the actual filter does. Now the filter has really two designated jobs. Now the first job that a filter has, which is kind of the most obvious, is it takes up space. So you'll notice that whenever the filter's in, every other slot bar one is taken up. And this is important because this allows us to narrow down the amount of items we can actually get inside this system, which is a good thing. It means now I can guaranteed only sort the one item I want in one designated slice of chest. Otherwise, if I were to remove this, now there's 4 other spaces available. That means if someone were to chuck random items into my system, let's say this, this and this, let's say now this is no longer an item system for one. Eventually, once this here gets filled up, it will hit a strong enough signal strength to activate. Therefore, the system will break and it will no longer sort one item. It now becomes a multi-item filter, which is basically just a regular hopper at that point. You might as well have just had a regular hopper. That's why you put items in each slot, one item in each slot, to take up space. Now, the next important part of an item filter that it does, or the filters, is you will notice that they are renamed. Now this is the part that kind of starts to confuse people as to why are these items renamed. But the basic premise as to why these items are renamed, and the way that I'm going to explain this, is picture every one of these here stackable items that you see in this here slot, and it's important that you pay attention to the word stackable because this is a stackable item sorter. Picture each one of these picture their names not really as their name, picture as a barcode, for example. Now, the reason why I'm telling you to picture it as a barcode, it's important to note that a note block has a completely different barcode to a jukebox because it is a different name. These two can't sort each other because they're different and they're not recognizable. Now, where that premise kind of comes in is I have two of the same things. These are both redstone lamps, but one is lichen sub and the other one is redstone lamp. Now, if I go to try and click on the redstone lamp, you'll notice it does not go into the filter. That is because it is now no longer what is classified to the game as a redstone lamp. These have a completely different barcode. These are something else. The only thing that can stack with these is like and sub. Now, why that is important is, let's say I had my filters as just redstone lamps. I still have a filter, but where the problem comes in is, let's say redstone lamps accidentally get into my system, and let's say they get in. Now my system's broke because now these are recognizable because they no longer have what is, as I said, I'm going to refer to it as a unique barcode, which therefore causes the system to deactivate, allowing these items to filter down into the chest. Which in the long run, with the more and more of these I get, you'll see this will stop at 42. But the more and more of these I get, the reason why that stops at 42 is because this slot is now free, by the way. But the more and more of these I get, the more and more this filter is going to break. So the reason why you put renamed items in this slot is so you can guarantee that there is no items in the game that has a recognizable name like this. That is why you would more than likely burn your filter items after once you've put them into your hopper. That way you do not risk them getting into your system and messing it up. All you need to know about filter items is it is essentially you taking a, or let's say jukebox, and I change it to box. It now it's the same item, but it now has a completely different barcode, a completely different identity. So now if I were to chuck jukeboxes into the system, I do not risk them breaking my filter because they are now a completely different set of items with a completely different barcode. So that is why you have renamed items in each item filter. Number 1 is to take up slots, and number 2 is to change the identity ka barcode of one item to another. So now technically these redstone lamps, that are also the same item as this, are not the same, but they are. It's basically just changing its code. And that is pretty much how the lock and key of the actual system kind of functions. This gives off the signal, this executes it, this allows it to filter. And that is how an item filter actually functions. It's pretty basic. It sounds really complicated whenever you're explaining it, but once you build it and watch it function, it's quite easy to understand. Now, the next part of a storage room that is important is your item transport. And item transport, I'm going to start with the most common way of doing it, which is a water stream. Basically, item transport and item realignment, these are terms that you will hear whenever it comes to storage tech quite a bit. All that is referring to is bringing the items to your filter. So essentially it is taking items from, let's say, your kill chamber, let's say you have this at a farm, and it is bringing it to where you want it to be stored, where it can be filtered and sorted into its designated place. Now, how this happens is pretty much you chuck whatever item is you're wanting to sort, let's say into this water stream now, and what will happen is it will get transported along the ice with the water, and it will hit off this chest where it is realigned. Now how that happens is, if you notice, if you pay attention to the outline of the hopper, and then if I go to the chest, you'll see that corner is slightly smaller. See how the square is slightly smaller? Now pretty much whenever the item hits across this, it slightly drifts into the hopper, which allows it to run across this water stream in between the hopper and ice trail, which allows it to get carried along your sorting system, which means if you have an item that is recognizable to this game's sorter, this sorter will take it. But if it's not this one, and let's say it is this one, it will keep on going its journey until once it hits its designated location. Now to demonstrate this, what I will do is I will grab a random item, which is glowstone, for example, and all these here filters are the same. But if I chuck glowstone into this here system, you will notice none of it gets picked up, and that's because the filters don't recognize it. But if I chuck gunpowder in, it will hit off that where it's realigned, and then it is picked up by a hopper where it is sorted into its designated place. So this item transport basically just takes the designated item to its designated location, and that is all item realignment is. Now I am going to do a tutorial on this here section. This is what I'm going to do a block by block tutorial on. I am going to recreate this, show you how to do this here system, show you how to do the filters, and I will show you how to do the basic item transport. But I will encourage you to build one for yourself and build one in your own world and mess around with how it actually functions so you can get a better understanding. Now as to how you're wanting to get the items into your water stream, that is entirely up to you. You can do a chest with a hopper and a dropper that activates and shoots all the items into the water stream. You could do a minecart unloader that shoots it into a dropper. By the way, I have a minecart unloader on my channel with double hopper speed, so wink wink nudge nudge if you want to check that out. Or you might want to use a shulker box unloader where you can unload a shulker box of items into your water stream. I also have one of those on my channel, so if you want to go ahead and check that out, you can do. But I am mainly going to build this. So yeah, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and jump into the block by block tutorial. Let's get right into it. So first of all, you're going to want to grab your chests. This is also going to be dependent on how many items you're wanting to sort. So you're going to need to work out how many items you're wanting to sort within the system. Now I'm going to place down some chests So in this case, I'm going to place down roughly about 5 chests. Okay, and then I'm going to build them up 4 from here. Well, 3 from here. So 1, 2, and 3. Like so. Then you're going to come to the back of your chests. In this case, it would be this side. And you're going to shift crouch and put a hopper facing into each of those chests like this. So you'll see that the nozzle end of this is facing into the chests. And you're going to do this here for each line of these here double chests. This is how you're going to filter your items down into the chests. Now, once that's done, what you're going to want to go ahead and do is come up to the top. And then you're going to want to grab your blocks, whatever it is that you're wanting to build your actual filter out of. And you're going to want to build this here top part out 3. So out 3 this here way. So that's 1, 2, and 3. Like this. Now you're going to want to fill that in to the floor solid. Now you're going to want to go ahead and grab yourself your comparators. Place them on the first line of blocks. Then you're going to want to grab your hoppers and shift crouch them facing into those comparators. Like so. So you can see they're facing into them. Now what you're going to want to go ahead and do is come to the bottom here, place a temporary block out, build 1 block down, break that temporary block. Then you're going to want to place a temporary block here, build 1 block down, break that temporary block. Now you're going to want to go ahead and grab yourself a repeater, place it on this one, and then build out that line of blocks, going out 4 more. Then you're going to want to put a repeater, facing towards the hoppers on each of these, like so. Then you're going to want to build back this line of blocks. Then you're going to want to place a row of blocks in front of those repeaters. So you should end up with something like this. Now you're going to want to grab your redstone torches. And you're going to want to place your redstone torches on front of each of those blocks. All that does is locks this block, stopping items being able to filter down, as you can see. Now, what you're going to want to do is the easiest part is grab your redstone and place it on all of these here blocks. That is how your signal is going to get transported down from each one of your filters. Okay, now you're going to want to grab yourself an anvil. You're going to want to get whatever block you're wanting to use as your filter. The easiest item to probably get would be stone. And then you're going to want to change its name to something that the game wouldn't recognize. So in my case, I'm going to put it as 9, let's say. Okay, and then you're going to want to decide on the items that you're going to want to sort. In my case, I'm just going to use all of the same items, but you can use 4 different items as long as it is non-stackable. So in this case, I will use, I don't know, carved pumpkins. Right? I'm going to come up to each of these here hoppers, and then in each of the hoppers you're going to place 4 items like that, 4 of your named filter items. Then you can put 41, or you can put 1 in each of these filters, or however many, but I'm just going to stick a full stack in and let it filter. But you can put 1 in and then let the system fill itself up. So I'm going to grab a couple of these. So as you can see, that will stop at 41. Then you're going to go ahead once again and put yourself in 4 filter items. Chuck a stack in, that will begin filtering. Put yourself in 4 filter items, chuck a stack in, that will begin filtering, so on and so forth. And you do this here right up until your very last section. Like so. And you'll know you've done it right because in each of these here chests you should have 23 items left in each of these. Why am I lagging? Okay, right. Now that is literally how you build an item filter. So well done, you've already built an item filter. The next thing that we're going to want to do is you're going to want to go ahead and place ice along the inside of these here chests. Now that will block your access from the top chest, but that's fine. Whenever you take items from the bottom one, they will begin to filter down anyway. So once you have placed ice along that there top chest, or along the top of the chest, you're going to go ahead and grab yourself glass panes and put glass panes facing across each of those hoppers. Then you're going to want to go ahead and grab yourself 2 blocks and place them off the side of your innermost hopper, which is this one. And then you're going to go ahead and place yourself a double chest. This is for your item realignment. Now it's important to note you can use other items. You can use cakes, you can use ender chest, you can use single chest, you can use a whole bunch of different items, but the most reliable in my experience is a double chest. Now place 2 more ice blocks. Then you're going to go back however many you're wanting it to carry. I would recommend going back at least 7 or 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. In this case I'm going to go 8. Then you're going to want to put yourself this here shape. This is going to be where your input would begin, or however far you're wanting to transport the items. And you're just going to want to put yourself a little glass barrier, just going the whole way along. This will just keep your items in and stop them from shooting off into places you don't want. Now you're going to want to go ahead, get yourself some water and some slabs, and you're going to want to place yourself water. Now what you're going to want to do is where this stream ends, which as you can see should end right perfectly at the end, you're going to want to break, or you're going to want to like break that current with a slab. What you're going to do is place a slab at the top, so that leaves a gap for an item to go through. And then what you're going to want to go ahead and do is put yourself down another water stream. Now this here will continue on a bit further, but this is where you would extend this here out for as many item filters as you're wanting to go. You just put a slab, for example, here, or a gap layer here, and then begin your system again on the side to continue it. So for example, your next batch of chests would go here, and then you would continue on that pattern because you would just put another stream here where it's aligned, and you would continue on that there pattern. Now I'm not going to cover what you're going to do for an input, because to be honest, that is very dependent on your storage room. If you would like me to do a full tutorial on an actual full functioning storage room with designated places and filters and locations, and do a full block by block tutorial on, like, for example, a 1000 item storage system, that's fine, I will do it. Just drop a comment and let me know. It would just be very, very difficult for me to show you how to do a full-fledged one, given the fact that everyone's storage system is different. It depends on what you're using it for, whether it's a kill chamber or an actual storage room. But this is how you build your basic item filter and your basic storage room. Please go ahead and build this and mess around with it and figure it out for yourself. Anyway, hope you enjoyed, and peace.